Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio. Your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Hello. What if the life you dreamed about, the life that you planned, wasn't exactly the life that you thought you'd be living? This happens to us on a regular basis. We're making plans, we've got these dreams, and along the way, we start to lose ourselves. And as we lose ourselves, sometimes we can become depressed. We can be filled with anxiety. We can actually start guessing our own decisions, second guessing our own decisions. This is Iconic Women, and I am your TV show host, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and I have the pleasure of bringing on a guest whom I've actually known for years now. I want to say we've known each other for maybe 5 years or so. And so her name is Dr. Annette Greenwood, and she has quite a backstory. She has overcome a number of things in her life that most of us maybe have to overcome one, and she's overcome so many. She is a presenter, she is an author, and she is also a coach, somebody who can help you with your life journey. Let's welcome Dr. Annette to the program. Hello, welcome.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Jacalyn. And it has been 5 years, maybe more. And I'm sure we've promised to do this ages ago, but here we are now. So yeah, it's wonderful.
Yes, we certainly did. So where are you joining us from today, Dr. Annette?
I'm joining you from United Kingdom in a little place called the Yorkshire Dales, which is a very lovely part of the world over here.
Well, I do love your accent. I've told you that before. It's very beautiful. So you heard what I said in the beginning of the show, and I know that you have been through many tough times since I've known you in the last 5 years. Tell us about your journey. Let's go back to 5 years ago when you and I met and you were going through some things. Where were you in life and what was actually going on?
So 5 years ago in life, I was getting on with my life, making plans, as you were talking about earlier. At the time, my husband was very ill, became ill, more seriously ill. And I was struggling with working, caring for him, caring for my father as well, and trying to kind of piece together the life that I wanted to live. So there was a lot of uncertainties going on. There was, we just had COVID. There was so many different things going on. And it just felt like every step forward I took, I was taking 10 back. And so it just felt like there was this whole circle around me, stopping me getting anywhere that I wanted to be. Does that kind of make sense? It just feels like you're trapped in a bit of a time warp.
Absolutely. And Dr. Annette, when I think back to conversations that you and I had, whether they were actual on WhatsApp or we were texting back and forth, I remember that I was so impressed by your strength and your courage. And you never came across as a victim. You never came across as woe is me. You came across as I'm dealing with some really serious things that are life-changing, and I'm going to take some time that I need to take. So where does that strength come from? Because not everybody has it.
No, they don't, Dr. Jacalyn. And I feel absolutely blessed and grateful that I'm in a place where I could cope with everything that was going on, because as I just said, things were firing at me all the time. And that strength comes from practice. So my different practices, my spiritual practice, which is steeped in Zen Buddhism, my Qigong, the Tai Chi, all the things that kind of brought me into the body, the meditation. But I've been practicing now for 26, 27 years. Now, I'm not saying it's an easy road, but it's one that I would not change, and I will practice, till the day I die, because those practices and that strength help me to cope with exactly the kind of things we've just been talking about. And it's wonderful that you remember those conversations, and that the resilience and the strength that I had to keep going and be determined not to sit down and be a victim, because that actually for me is the complete opposite of where I'm coming from.
Absolutely. I remember your strength and your resilience. And it brings me to my next question, which is sometimes for people who potentially are not on a personal growth development path, maybe they are staying where it is they are staying, they look at someone like you and they say, oh, well, nothing really bad happens to you because you have more tools to deal with it. I don't have tools. So, so what would you say to that?
I would say, and actually somebody did say that to me once. I was actually working in a prison. I was coaching at the time. And I'd got this lovely little leather briefcase that had been bought for me as a gift. And I was so proud of it. And this girl I was working with said, what do you know about hardship? What do you know about anything? And I said, you should never judge a book by its cover. You've absolutely got no idea what my life is, where I've come from, and the adversities I've had to deal with. This bag signifies somebody buying me this as a gift, as a tragedy that I'd overcome. And it was something that reminded me of how life can just turn us, pivot us just like that. And so this little bag was my little anchor to remind me that actually I've come so far. So, never ever judge a book by its cover. And actually, being a coach, if you've been through your own adversities, then you know how to help other people. You can't do it without Dr. Jacalyn, can you?
It's very true, Dr. Annette. Thank you for sharing that. One thing I want to bring up is obviously one of the places we're streaming right now is social media. And what I find, and not today, fortunately, but many times when I'm broadcasting, people will just put really nasty comments. And I think to myself, they might not even be about me, but they might. And I think to myself, I'm going to give that person grace because I don't know what it is they're going through. But there's so much obvious judgment going on in the world. And so you're working on yourself. I'm working on myself. We usually the circle that we're in, it's the same. But many people are not. And so they're sitting back and they're saying, oh, I guess you think you're better than me because you have these tools or you have these degrees or you've written these books, etc. So what would you say to somebody who clearly needs grace and maybe a little love, maybe a little comfort and understanding, saying, listen, I know that you might not understand my journey, but I'm here to try to understand yours if you're willing to share.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's about being non-judgmental and saying to that person, you're not in my shoes and I'm not in yours. Without knowing each other and standing in each other's shoes, you will never know what somebody else has had to live with, cope with. And I'm not here to judge you or tell you how you should or shouldn't live your life. But actually, that hug or that act of kindness, that random act of kindness that you might give to that person might just make them feel a little bit different. But you see, I'll often question why are you doing this on social media? Why are you hating on people or saying the things you're saying without actually knowing anything about anybody else? You're right in what you're saying, Dr. Jacalyn. It's so common about judgment. I've had so much judgment on me over the years that I've learned to. Yeah, I don't know about you, but you kind of end up letting it go over your head, because if you listened and took it all on board, you'd be forever sat moping and sad about things. But actually, I have great empathy for people who are doing this kind of thing, because there's something going on in their life or with them that they just aren't dealing with. you've just got to look, haven't you, beyond what's going on in somebody else's life and think, well, yeah, maybe I can actually do things different for myself.
Absolutely. And I know that you have shared that you have gone through depression, you've gone through isolation, you've gone through low self esteem. And yet, look at you today. You've won all these awards as a life coach. Your book is going to become a film. And so you really are excelling. And so there might be people out there right now who have low self esteem. Maybe they hate themselves. And to think about how could they go from there to a trajectory where you are, what does that process look like?
Do you know, Dr. Jacalyn, if I say here, and I'm happy to share this, that I was seconds away from running myself off the road behind the wheel of a car because I felt so low, so depressed. Anxiety was like a constant thing in my life, and I just did not see a way forward. But there was something deeper in me that was saying, no, you are worth better. And it wasn't until I reached out, I got the right help. Yes, I had to try a few things. I tried counseling, that wasn't for me. I tried psychotherapy, that wasn't for me. But then when I found my spiritual practice, and I don't mean that in a God-fearing way, it was in a way that helped me to come to terms with the woman that I am, or I was then, how to self-accept, how to learn how to love myself and care for myself and believe in myself. But all these things are steps, and nothing comes without actually putting the effort in. So finding the right people to help you, finding the right support network, whether it be a group, a person, a friendship group, but people who actually lift you up and don't pull you down. That is absolutely crucial. I'm sure you'd agree with me. You need the right people with the right energy to support you.
Absolutely. I'm shaking my head for those who are listening on an audio only platform. And Dr. Annette, as I recall, you have extensive experience in the media industry, right? You're used to being visible in terms of radio, TV, and of course with your books and now a film that's coming. Someone might say, well, how could someone who's in the public eye have any insecurities? Because how do you show up and put on a face and share this knowledge and education if inside you really are going through a lot of things?
Because it's so important to be able to do exactly what we're doing today. And I remember just a short time after my husband had passed away, I was asked to do an interview. Now, I'm not saying it wasn't difficult, and I'm not saying it wasn't emotional, but you step forward, you step up, and if it makes somebody else's life better, or somebody else is going through that and you're sharing how you're coping and you're showing that you're human and you're authentic, that is what matters to me. I've actually, and probably like you, I've met myself coming back today, as I call it. I started off at 8 this morning. I've rushed through my day, but I'm here because this is important to me to share what we're talking about now.
I really appreciate that. And that is a true professional because when you have projects like you have and you keep growing and building, it's very easy to say, well, I'm not going to do this or I'm not going to do that. But what we do is we show up, we give our
Mm,
word and we show up. I really admire that.
yeah.
Dr. Annette, through this process, this journey that you've taken, when you look back 5 years ago to the you were then versus who you are today, what are the major differences?
Oh, wow. My deep, deep compassion for somebody who was going through the difficulties that my husband was going through that I didn't really know about at the time. So, anybody else who might be struggling with their mental health, alcohol problems, drug addictions, and you don't know what's going on for them, it's it. I could easily, at the end of it all, be really bitter and lived my life like that. But instead, I've turned it around, excuse me, and said, whatever he was going through, that was painful. And I can utterly and sit here hand on heart and say I have absolute compassion for him. And that brought me into a different place. It brought me into a different place emotionally, spiritually, and the growth that's happened as a result of that. I'm a completely different person than I was 5 years ago, but in a very extremely kind, caring, and supportive way. That doesn't mean to say I'm not a tough cookie underneath all this, because there's times you have to be, isn't there, Dr. Jacalyn? But underneath all that, I can have complete compassion for the majority of people, not for people who are cruel. I just want to make that clear. But yeah, absolute compassion.
Dr. Annette, I think you really hit on something, which is setting boundaries. We can set boundaries. We can still be compassionate and understanding, but at the same time, we have to have our boundaries and our limits. And I think that's one of the things I know as a coach myself. That's one of the toughest things for people to grasp is about setting a boundary, because they're going to have to interact with someone that they deal with on a regular basis, right? It might be a spouse, significant other, it might be a child, and all of a sudden they're changing their behavior and setting these boundaries. But how important is boundary setting to having peace of mind?
Absolutely super important, especially for some of the women I've worked with, and probably yourself, Dr. Jacalyn, where they are in relationships that are compromising. They don't have the self-esteem or the self-confidence to say no, and they say yes all the time. So setting those boundaries, that's an empowering thing to do. You're not weak, and you're not a coward, and you're not harsh because you're setting boundaries. That's for your own mental health, your own self-worth, and all the things that we're talking about. Without those boundaries, you just kind of drift. It's like being on a boat out at sea and you just go in every way. Boundaries are so important, providing the healthy, and it works for you and the other person. Sometimes it doesn't always work for the other person, but you still have to set those boundaries. Otherwise, yeah, you're drifting. You are drifting.
Absolutely. And that's one of the toughest things is letting go of relationships and saying, this doesn't serve me anymore. And sometimes we don't have to actually put an emotion to it. It might be someone came into our life for a reason or a season, and the same with us. And I know many times people are very upset because there's not closure. Well, we never discussed it and I didn't know it was ending and I'm not really sure, but we may not get that closure. And so I always look at what was the value that did come from the relationship and how can I celebrate that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a beautiful point, that, because you can learn something from every relationship, can't you, that we've been in, whether you label it as bad, good, or indifferent. But when you look back and you think about the difficulties or the challenges that you were going through and how you've changed as a result of that, but you don't attach it to that. You wouldn't think for a minute that being in a compromising relationship, moving on from that, setting your life all over again and meeting a new person and having new life goals to work towards, you wouldn't give it a thought that as because of that person or that relationship, that's what's helped. But it does help, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And I want to segue over to your book, Imprisoned Hearts, because if you think about it, what we're talking about now, we actually lock our own hearts up, right? We become so afraid of feeling because we've been hurt. We've been through a lot. So it's let me take my heart and put it behind this big brick wall that no one can get through. And what can happen as a result of that, doctor?
So, in Imprisoned Heart, this very woman that we're talking about, has done exactly that through her own difficulties, her challenges, the life that she's having to live, and she closes her heart off, and it's like she's got barbed wire around it. She is a sex worker, and she's doing that to help her parent, her family, really. And she has to close her heart up in order for her to do that, where it affects her emotionally, spiritually, physically, and to the point of she doesn't even know who she is. She hates herself. She does not want to be on this planet. And it's only through her journey of triumph over adversity does she learn to love herself and change her whole perspective.
What are your thoughts about? I remember as I was growing up that one of my relatives said, well, you're from the me generation. It's always about me, 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 putting yourself first and not putting others first. And now I think as the generations have gone, it's kind of turned a little bit. But if you think about it, in order to get out of your own imprisonment, you've got to put yourself first. You've got to look at what's going on with you and what is the value that you have. How would you address that it's selfish to put ourselves first?
Do you know, I used to think like that as well. And I think that, like you say, that generation of, oh, it's selfish to put yourself first. It's so selfish to do this. But how many women, as an example, do you know always put the self last? Even today in this generation. So, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this. Husband comes first, children comes first, dog comes first. And then somewhere down the line, in the pecking order, there she is at the end of the day, absolutely exhausted because she's been working, looking after the kids, the home, and all that. I don't think there's anything wrong with a woman, a man, or whoever in looking at their life and saying, well, actually, where do I fit into all this? I'm somebody else's wife, somebody else's mother, somebody else's sister, I'm somebody else's employee, but who am I? So by putting yourself first and thinking about the things that matter to you and your own values, you actually are doing other people a service.
I don't think that people really take that into consideration because what you mentioned earlier is when you are in a role like that, where you're a caretaker, for example, or you are a parent, you're a spouse, you're expected to say, yes, yes, darling, I'll do that. Yes, children will do this. Yes, 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 yes. And somewhere along the way, you lose yourself. And naturally, what comes up based on my experience is resentment. There's resentment and there's anger, and then it can start to affect not only the relationships, but our health also. So, Dr. Annette, I know you've worked with many, many women and men as well, but you are a certified and an awarded life coach. Tell us about that process of working with you. What does it look like?
So, working with me, now I like to think that I work in a very authentic and different way. So I'm always, anybody I work with, I tailor the sessions to work with them and meet them where they're at. So it might be I get somebody who just they want to make a career change. So I'll always spend like a full hour to begin with, finding out a little bit more about them, what makes them tick, what's important to them. And sometimes just looking at what's important to you is the thing that opens you up to new possibilities. So I start off with that kind of thing in a session. We might even do some meditation. We might even do some Qigong just to bring us into the moment. But we'll always work with values of integrity, honesty, and openness. And those are kind of the boundaries. We were talking about boundaries earlier that I have. And if I felt somebody wasn't ready for coaching or they weren't responding in some way, and maybe that, because it happens, you don't always gel with your clients and the coach, I would be very open to having a conversation and saying, look, maybe this isn't working, maybe I'm not the right person. So I don't think it would be professional of me to continue that relationship. But I have to say that that rarely ever happens. And people that I work with always feel supported and empowered, that's one of the things that are really important to me, that somebody walks away feeling happy, grateful, uplifted and empowered with some positive action steps, no matter how small, depending on the person, that those steps are. It's important that they feel like they're moving somewhere, maybe slowly but surely, but that's fundamental to me.
Thank you, Dr. Annette. There might be women out there right now who are thinking, well, I just heard you talking about me. I am doing it all. But if I reach out to you, I'm admitting that I need help. And then I might have a hard time processing that because I'm so used to being the superstar. How do I let go and say, yes, I need some help, Dr. Annette?
So if you're thinking, wow, yeah, I'm struggling here, and if I reach out and ask for help, good. I'm absolutely delighted. There's nothing wrong with reaching out and asking for help, and you are not weak. As we were saying before, it takes courage and it takes strength to hold your hand out and say, I need help. I've done it myself. I haven't got here by just sitting and feeling sorry for myself. I've reached out, I've asked for help, and the right people have turned up at the right time, and that is so important. So never ever think you are weak because you're reaching out. It's actually, in my world, it's a sign of strength. So please reach out.
And we do have a lot of the contact details here in the notes. But I want to talk a little bit about something that most people never get to accomplish, which is writing a book that then comes into another format in the media. Tell us about this.
So as you can tell, I'm absolutely excited. I'm absolutely excited about this. So the book Imprisoned Heart, it's been out there in the public domain for about 5 years now. And then at the back end of 2025, I met with a screenplay writer called Simon Powell. And he said, let me read this book. Let me see what I think about it. And he said, if I don't like it, I will tell you. And if I do like it, I'll tell you. Anyway, I've handed the book over to him and I thought, I've just got to go with this and see what happens. Anyway, about 3 or 4 days later, he messaged me and said, I love this. I absolutely love this. This is a film. So we've been working together since November of last year, and we've just come to the end of the first stages of the screenplay. We're now on to just like where he double checks it for any little tweaks, and now at the stage where we are looking for producers and people who are looking to fund films. And so that this bit for me, that I'm bursting with excitement, Dr. Jacalyn. I really am, because it's massive, it's huge, it's a dream come true.
Congratulations. That is a
Yeah.
true accomplishment. As I mentioned, that happens so rarely. So
Yeah.
I'm really proud of you. And you mentioned that you wrote this, I think it was in 2019, right? Was it that? Yeah. So it just goes to show you that what it is that you create, it may not come to the full fruition until some time passes. And so we don't give up, we keep moving forward. And so, Dr. Annette, we were talking before about how you help people. So, who would you say would be a good client for you? You mentioned about the fact sometimes it doesn't work out, right? So, if somebody's out there right now and they want to call you or contact you, what are you looking for from someone to, aside from the fact that they're open to coaching?
So I'm looking for somebody who is not closed off to the techniques that I might use. I'm very much into things around energy, as you are, Dr. Jacalyn. So I'm looking for somebody who will embrace the style of coaching that I use, and I adapt it for everybody who I work with. I'm looking for somebody who is at a stage in life when they are maybe at a crossroads and they're willing to take that next step forward. I don't care what your background is. It doesn't matter to me whether you've got qualifications, you don't. It's somebody who's willing, who's ready, and who will work with me and collaborate with me in a very genuine and open-hearted, spirited way.
Thank you for that. And what I want to share is that, and many people, you might not know this, but those of us who are coaches, we always have coaches and we always have mentors, and we're always progressing and taking courses and getting educated, because that's really what it takes when you're working with people. You want to make sure that you're honing your own skills. So Dr. Annette is award winning and she knows what she's doing, and she has the backstory herself from where she's been and what she's gone through. And what I'd like to share with our audience also is none of us is impervious to things happening in our life that are life changing, whether we like it or we don't. But having that set of tools, having that coach, that mentor who can sit beside you, who can hold your hand literally and figuratively to help you get through situations is life-changing. So we have your contact information from your website as well. So I promised at the beginning, I would say, which I think is so important, how do people get in touch with you, Dr. Annette, and who would you like to contact you?
So they can contact me on LinkedIn because I've got a presence on there. On my website, there is a contact me form. So those are the two ones really. And who would I like to contact me? Anybody who might be interested in making a change in their life. Anybody who's interested in talking to me about my book, obviously, and the screenplay and how that's going to play out in terms of it being a movie. So those are the people I would like to contact me, or people who want to talk like this in a conversation. I don't call it an interview. It's a conversation, Dr. Jacalyn, isn't it? That's how I like to term it.
It absolutely is. And I just want to share this again in case you're just joining us. But Annette and I met actually through a third party. I think it was Mark Stephen Pooler, wasn't it?
That's it. Yes, it was.
We love Mark, by the way.
Yeah,
so
we love him.
We met through a mutual contact, and then as time went on, some things happened, right? Things happened on your end, things happened on our end. And here we are today, maybe 5 years later, doing this interview because this was the divine timing. This is when it was supposed to happen. So what I want you to think about out there is you're watching this show for a reason, whether you're watching it live or you're watching it later or you're listening to it on Spotify. Take action. Take action. Reach out to Dr. Annette because she is here to serve. She is here to help you get the tools that you need and go to the place where you're supposed to go to find joy and peace. So, Dr. Annette, what would you like to have our audience leave this show with today? What are your words of wisdom?
There's probably lots and lots of things I could say, Dr. Jacalyn, but what I would say is you're never alone. You can triumph over adversity. If I can do it, you can do it. Don't be afraid to reach out, whether it's me or somebody else, and never, ever give up, ever.
Thank you very much. It has been an absolute honor and pleasure. I'm sure we'll be doing more together in the future now that we have found our way here. So thank you, Dr. Annette, and I really appreciate you for everything you're doing. Congratulations about the upcoming film. And again, investors, if you're out there and you're looking for a project to put your money in, this is a good one. So please do reach out. Thank you, Dr. Annette.
Thank you, Dr. Jacalyn. Lots of love.
Thank you. Lots of love. Bye for now. That's our episode today on Iconic Women. And what I'd like you to take away from it is what Dr. Annette closed with. First of all, we're not defined by one moment in time. We are not defined by 5 years, by 10 years. We are defined by how we show up and what we're putting out into the world. So if your life has not been going the way that you'd like it to go, guess what? You get another opportunity because as humans, one of the things that we have that's a big advantage over AI, we have the ability to make choices. So if you're not happy with the choices that you've made, take action. What I always say is we have so much information at hand, but what do we do with the information? Dr. Annette Greenwood is here today. She can help you. She is certified. She is award winning and she has a film coming out. Okay. She's been through the mill in life, so to speak, and she is here to help you get the tools that you need. Thank you again for watching. What I wish for you is that you will find the peace and joy in your life that you have earned. When you look in the mirror, you can look in the window. You can look at anything that's reflecting. Your best coach is you. But sometimes we need some help to realize that. So please do reach out to Dr. Annette Greenwood. Thank you again for being here. If you haven't done so, please do subscribe to our 2 YouTube channels, USA Global TV and Radio and Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. We're going to close out with a message from one of our team members, Tracy Cram-Perkins. She helped me so much. I was a full-time caregiver for my mother, and she passed away actually 3 years ago yesterday. She had dementia, and Tracy wrote a book called Dementia Home Care Before, During, and After. And she also has a TV show here by the same name. Take a look. I highly recommend that you pick up a copy of this book. It really was life-changing for me. USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents Tracy Cram Perkins, a dementia caregiving survivor teaching how to balance care with peace of mind. #1 resource for dementia caregivers. It's the book Dementia Home Care: How to Prepare Before, During, and After. Over 17,000 copies sold of this must-have guide. And now a testimonial from Tracy Smith.
If I was to describe this book to someone who is going through a similar situation, I would underscore how important it is to have some sort of a tool or a guidebook to help you through certain stages. And there's so many, it's such an unknown topic to the average person. And to have this as a reference is essential. It's going to help you get through it personally, as well as help your loved one manage.
To learn more, go to tracycramperkins.com. Tracy Cram Perkins is an award-winning author. She's also the host of Dementia Home Care television show. Watch it here on USA Global TV and Radio.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.